Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. We're going to do our monthly market walk on the Pokemon market, going all the way back to Sword and Shield through the Scarlet and Violet era and into the current Mega Evolutions era. Of course, I love doing these every month just to see how crazy the Pokemon market is remaining. And even in a pullback, it's going to be crazy because a lot of these products are old enough that they are becoming vanishingly rare in the market. Sword and Shield base box. This is from February of 2020. Guys, this is an ancient box, and even though it was early 2020, the huge reprints for Pokemon did not hit until late 2021. And so this box mostly escaped it. There are not many left in the world, 23 listed on the marketplace, all the way up to $630 now. And in the last year, you can see it is up 68% in price just in the last 12 months. Rebel Clash, Sword and Shield O2, $490 on a straight trajectory upwards over the last 3 months, and in the last year total up 92%. Guys, I always like to remind you that there are people out here who say that markets were never meant to work this way. It can't go on like this. It was never meant to be like this. And well, here's the reality, another 12 months where this box nearly doubled. And on to Darkness Ablaze. Now, Darkness Ablaze is the first one that really got hammered by reprints during the COVID and post COVID era. And so the prices have remained depressed on this, even though it's a giant fat Charizard set. $335 today, and you can see it's leveled off here in the last couple of weeks. That's something we're going to see a lot as we go forward into the later boxes. 48 left in the market and 42 sold over the last 3 months. And in the last year, it's up 120%. Vivid Voltage, the Fat Pikachu set, again, very, very heavily printed. This was the next to last box. Yes, the next to last box to go out of stock on Pokemon Center back around February or March of this year when they finally ran out of old Sword and Shield product at MSRP. And since then, it's gone from that $144 MSRP price up to today, $249 when you add this shipping cost in here. And here you see that the market has pulled back a little bit, about $6, $7, $8. Well, if we take the market price here of 256 and we compare that to the lowest ask today of about 249, then yeah, it's back about $6 in the last 6 weeks. And again, this was one of the highest production boxes of this era. And so it went out of stock on Pokemon Center next to last. And so we should expect that it will have a very, let's say, large response to these market pullbacks. And here we are with the worst performing box of the Sword and Shield era. Battle Styles, $243. And yes, there were days back in late 21 and early 22 when you could get these delivered to your house off of TCG Player for the high 80s and low 90s. And let's see, how big of a pullback has this done? From 288 at the market price here back at the beginning of October to 243 for the lowest ask. So there we go. It's shed about $45 in the last 6 weeks. That's what a real pullback looks like. So, it's dropped, what would that be, about 1/6 of its price in that time period, 1/7 maybe. And Chilling Rain, this one is looks a lot steeper, 577 at the market compared to 440. So dropped $130 in between that peak market price and today's current ask price. Now, on the 1 year chart, it is up 132%. And this is the thing that a lot of short-term Timmies have trouble with. They look at what a stock or an asset or a TCG box or any other thing has done in some very short-term time, a day, an hour, a couple of weeks, a few months, and they ignore the long-term trends. And the long-term trends of Sword and Shield era Pokemon is up. And you see that here, even after shedding $130 of value in the last 6 weeks, this product is still up 132% over the last 12 months. Evolving Skies peaked up here around $2,600 market price, and today it's $2,300. So another one where You say, well, it's lost close to 10% of its value in the last 6 weeks. On the 1 year timeline, it's up 189%. So it's still nearly tripled in the last year, even after shedding $200 in the last couple of weeks. Fusion Strike 800 and goes over 900 with the shipping still. So it's holding over 900. So about 905. Peaked up here a little over 1,000, 1032, and now it's 905. So yes, shed about $130. And over the last TCG player, get this fixed, guys. Come on. Golly. We'll just have to be satisfied with merely the last 6 months of data, including this recent pullback. It's up 28% over the last 6 months. So, it's wild. It's wild watching how these boxes perform because, as I always like to reiterate, these are scarce collectibles that people destroy for fun. The amount of these boxes left in the world goes down every single day. And if you do not have a position in these boxes, now's an okay time to start building one because we're probably going to be on the downslope for several months, hopefully a year or so on Pokemon. Hopefully, we have a long time for more and more and more capitulation, for more and more desperate sellers to cut their prices and to let us stack it deep for the next bull run. But man, a great time to either lay in a position or increase a position because we know that every one of these Sword and Shield era boxes is out of print. Brilliant Stars, $491 as the lowest ask today. And where did we peak on the market price? 550. So yes, it's lost about 10 or 12% in the last month and a half, but over the last 12 months, it's up 162%. And I know maybe you've stumbled upon this video accidentally. You don't really know what's going on here. And you're thinking, how can these assets be up 160% in 1 year? Well, people want them. People want them very badly. And there is a finite and only shrinking amount of them left in the world. And that's how. Astral Radiant Sword and Shield 10, $402. It does not look like this is seen a ooh, okay. Well, it took a pretty big round trip there over the last 6 months. Golly, 412 down to 366 and back up to 411. We're at 409 on the market price today, and the lowest ask is 400. So basically no movement in the last 6 months. Over the last year, 126% that it's up. So it took this wild, wild ride up over the first 6 months of this 1 year period, and then it pulled back a little bit and sprang back up. So, wow. Some of these products, even if we are in a weak market for Pokemon right now, a market that is pulling back and is likely to pull back more, some of these products will not respond the same because, again, the amount of them left in the world is just so low. Lost Origins Sword and Shield 11, $704. We peaked back here, probably 820, we'll call it. Yeah, about 820. So it's lost about $120 in between its peak market price and today's lowest current ask price. And even after losing $120, it's still up 228% in the last month. In the last year. Silver Tempest, our final Sword and Shield era box, $429. We peaked up here about 488-ish. And so we've lost about $50, $60 in the last month and a half. And even after that loss, it is up 167%. You know, some people will look at that and they'll say, golly, it's lost $100 or $60, or in the case of Evolving Skies, $200 of value in the last couple of weeks. And they'll just think that's horrible. And they'll fail to realize that on the last 12-month time span, a lot of these products have more than doubled even after those losses. So going into the Scarlet and Violet era, $232 for a Scarlet and Violet base box that peaked all the way up at 247. 240, it's lost $15. Golly. Yeah, well, it's a much more recent box, so we expect the price movements to maybe be a little less interesting. Maybe there are fewer people who have quite woken up to the fact that this is an out of print box and quantity is only decreasing. Paldea Evolved, $395, peaked up here at 476. So it's lost about $80, about one-sixth of its value over the last month and a half. And in the last year, it is up 200%. So it's tripled in the last year, even after losing this value over the last month and a half. And Obsidian Flames SVO3, $303, peaking up here at about 333. And so it's lost again about 9% of its value in the last month. Over the last year, it's up 139%. It's going to get kind of interesting to look at boxes in the market for a few of these. 102 boxes left and 42 sold in the last month. Hopefully, we see a pickup in the sales rate if the price is coming down. But, it's a bad time of year for TCGs. People get into the holidays, they start focusing on other things, on family and vacations and get togethers, buying gifts, spending money on other stuff. And so the holiday season is always fairly weak for TCGs. We'll probably see some increased buying as you see these light blue bars back here spiking up in the last couple of days, but I think the price will continue to fall. Hopefully, more and more of these boxes get ripped and destroyed forever. $235 for Paradox Rift SV04 peaked at $325, so it has lost $90 off of its top price. If we go to just 1 month, yeah, we really can't get a clear view of that. I wish I could do custom adjustments on this time span. So 1 year ago, this box was $112, so it is still more than doubled in the last year. Now, Temporal Forces SVO5, there's something to say about this. This was a March of 2024 product. And so this is the first box we're going to be looking at today that has a good chance of still getting reprints. Everything here and after has a better and better and better chance of seeing more reprints. So 265, and you see we have not seen a price pullback on this one. Maybe that means we haven't seen a big reprint of it. It would be a pretty low priority for the Pokemon Company to reprint this when they have things like Destined Rivals still up in the high 300s. That is a much more recent product. In the last year, this has nearly doubled, 110% return in the last year. Twilight Masquerade SVO6. I didn't miss one there, did I? Nope. Okay, SVO6, $305 with that shipping charge. It peaked here about a month ago at 330, and I thought it had a previous peak. Well, I guess it did here, but then it lasted well past that. Yep. So 330, and now it's pulled back to around 305. So it's lost about 9% in the last few weeks. In the last year, up 105%. But again, this is one that is still very, very subject to reprints in the coming months. If there is printer space for it, it's one that has been high the entire lifetime of the product. And so Pokemon Company could definitely sell every box that it produces. Stellar Crown SVO7 262, another data error here from TCG Player's website. So we'll go to the 6-month plot, and we peaked probably about 287. So it's only dropped $20. Yeah, that's kind of a sign that we haven't seen a reprint lately for this. We have a very, very short pullback here, very slight pullback, and that's probably just on the recent market weakness. Going back a whole year, up 140%. Surging Sparks, I managed to pick up a few boxes of this earlier this year when it flirted around in the low 200s, and then it just kind of took off from there, peaking at $300, but now back to $245. So let's see, that's lost 55, so about 16% down off of the peak now. And man, this 1 year plot, yeah, not very kind, only up 20%, but that goes through the pre-release period. So these 1 year looks are not as useful as we get to more and more and more recent products because it starts to include their pre-release lifetime where the market dynamics are very different. But 245, it's very good to see this one coming down off these highs, losing some value. Hopefully we can get a lot more of it and we can get the price to come down more and get us to put some boxes back. Journey Together, I chose just the regular booster box, not the enhanced booster box, $243 here off of the peak of 263. So it's come down about $20. And if If you had only been in these markets during 2025, you would look at these 220, 240, $260 Pokemon boxes, and you would think, well, that seems about reasonable. But you got to keep in mind that the MSRP for Scarlet and Violet era is 169, and generally you expect the boxes to sell below MSRP. And so you would expect a good, reasonable price in a slow, boring market for Pokemon booster boxes for in print regular expansions to be somewhere around $120 to $140. That would be a price that nobody would bat an eye at. Everybody would feel okay about that price. But 240 is definitely elevated and has a lot of room to fall. We have not even started to see capitulation yet. And Destined Rivals $390, and golly, it peaked up here at 455. And if there's anything that Pokemon Company needs to absolutely be drowning the market in from the printers, it's this to get these prices down. When you have this set that is very recent, in fact, it was 1.5 sets ago, about. We've had one more regular release since this one, and the price is still up here near $400. The market can take it. The market can take more and more of this product, truckloads of it. Just give it to us so we can get these prices down and people can get the cards they want. Yeah, a very tumultuous history spiking up there, and then hopefully this was sign of a reprint. I couldn't imagine anything bringing it down beyond that because this expansion was so heavily anticipated and is so popular. So we're going to get into the couple of the Mega Evolution era that we have so far. $270 for Mega Evolution base MEO1, and we peaked here in pre-release at 340 and release day around 320, and then it's come down to 265. So we could probably say it shed about $60. We don't really count these peaks back here at pre-release because the market is not functioning normally there. As well, it's functioning normally, but it's not functioning the same as it does post-release. There are very different conditions in the market between those two spots. So hopefully, I would expect that this is TCG expansion lifecycle stuff doing its thing. We probably have not seen a giant reprint of Mega Evolutions. Hopefully, the initial printing on it, they kept on the press long enough to keep enough in the market to keep it happy. And so we're seeing the kind of natural price decay as a product goes through its release week and the couple of weeks afterwards as people get their fill of it and they start to move on to other things. And lastly, Phantasmal Flames MEO2, $310, still on its initial downwards plunge through the pre-release period. This comes out this coming Friday. And hopefully, again, Pokemon Company was able to keep it on the press an extra long time and build up a huge backlog of inventory on this one to push out into the market to get the prices back to sane levels. But, these are good opportunities. There are definitely a lot of things in the second half of the Scarlet and Violet era where I do not have nearly the number of boxes that I would have liked to have had. I have no Destined Rivals. I think I have like 2 boxes of Journey Together, about the same of Surging Sparks. I ended up being able to get all of this Stellar Crown that I wanted, but yeah, see, earlier this year it was back down at reasonable prices, and I laid in my position on that. Twilight Masquerade, I'm still missing a lot of what I would like to have. And so there are a lot of these where I'm looking for the opportunity to start buying into them over the coming months as the prices continue to fall, and hopefully we see a long, deep bear market for Pokemon. Hopefully it's another opportunity like late 22 and early 23 when Final Trade and my viewers and my patrons were buying things like sleeved Evolving Skies booster packs for $3 each and piling them high back in the closet. So it'll be a big opportunity. And the one thing I worry about is the buyer who says, oh, well, I'll buy that when it drops to $200. They look at something like Twilight Masquerade at 305 with that shipping charge. And they say, well, I would buy at $200. Well, then, 6 months from now, maybe we get to $200 and the person looks back out there and they almost never say, oh, well, it's $200. It's time for me to back up that metaphorical truck and load it up. Instead, what they say then is, it dropped from 305 to 200. It must be absolutely worthless. And they never buy. And so most of the people who pound their chest about how much they're going to buy in the future when the price drops, they never follow through. They choose to miss out. And sadly, I had a lot of conversations with people over the last 18 months who chose to miss out on Sword and Shield era, on the previous Pokemon bear market of late 21 through about the end of 23 ish, when it started to pick up on various parts of it. And, it's the same thing here. There will be people who just choose to miss out because by the time the products drop in price, they convince themselves that it must be a terrible product if it fell in price, not understanding that these are scarce collectibles people destroy for fun, and that on the long timeline, well, boxes full of cardboard squares with pictures of fighting animals on them get better returns than even the most legendary hedge fund managers in Wall Street history. The data are the data. Let me know what you think, guys. It's going to be exciting getting into the holidays this year, and hopefully this Pokemon bear market stays down. Hopefully it goes down further, and hopefully it gives us some great opportunities to lay in supply over the coming months. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade.